we have to solo recap Sunday Night Football here, and what a magnificent game of offensive football it was. Niners 42, Bears 38. This one went all the way down to the end. The stat of the day here came from the official NFL account, just to encapsulate how this game went here. This was the first time in NFL history a regular season game had been tied at each of 7-all, 14-all, 21-all, 28-all, 35-all. I mean, it was just shot for shot for shot. These teams were scoring left and right. The scoring actually began, oddly enough, on a defensive touchdown. A pick six by the Chicago Bears defense was the first score of the day, and then the offenses just completely took over. Defense was optional in this one, and both of the offenses looked fantastic in this one. Let's dive into each of them piece by piece here. We'll, of course, start with the winners, as we always do. Let's talk about those San Francisco 49ers, as this offense has just been completely white hot, lights out since they came back from their late week 14 bye, which, usually those late bye weeks are annoying. They're annoying in fantasy. I think Kyle Shanahan had some comments that he thought the week 14 bye was even a little bit annoying for the San Francisco 49ers. I would kind of contend that it happened at the exact right time for this Niners team, because everybody, well, for the most part, Brock Purdy especially was able to get back and get healthy. And man, Brock is just playing at an extremely high level right now. Again, he had the interception at the beginning of the game. Did he make another mistake after that? I'm sure if going back and watching the film, you'll be able to see, there was a receiver he missed here, or, an assignment that it wasn't quite picked up the right way, a protection that he missed. All of that stuff I think is, fair game. But for the most part, he was pretty damn near flawless outside of that. 300 passing yards on the day, 72.7% completion rate here for Brock Purdy. 3 touchdowns through the air, 2 more on the ground. I mean, he's been a fantasy football monster here at the end of the season, and I just love watching this guy play. I've always been a Purdy apologist here. I've always been a guy that has really liked his game, had him as a top 10 quarterback on our Football 301 top 10s in the offseason, and, to me, I just really, really like watching him play. I think he is not the typical Shanahan paint by numbers quarterbacks, and there was a weird narrative. It wasn't a loud narrative, but it was at least somewhat alive on the football internet that, when Mac Jones was having a moment to start this year, it's like, is Brock Purdy, is his job in danger? Mac Jones, he's just out there. Is he out playing what Brock Purdy was going to be doing? It's like, give me a freaking rest, people. Guys like Mac Jones and Jimmy Garoppolo in the past, these guys can come in and give you very much starting quarterback viable play behind center in Kyle Shanahan's offense, because they can be those extension of the coach on the field. They can be the joysticks where Shanahan points and they shoot. They pull the trigger on those plays. That's great. I think Mac Jones in the right system could be a starting NFL quarterback, at least a bridge guy. I think there's places next year, if the Niners are interested in trading him, where he could go and be that guy elsewhere. And that's fine. But there's just a different level that Purdy is able to access as a player, and you saw it a ton in this particular game. 6 carries for 28 yards and 2 touchdowns. The scramble ability, the ability to make plays and throws on the move is just different than anybody else that's played for this offense. And he truly, it's not hard to see. It's not hard to see where he elevates the system, where he elevates the surroundings around him. I really do think that people, maybe because he was the final pick in the draft, or because we've seen, insert random quarterback here be productive with Kyle Shanahan before, they really missed the forest for the trees with Brock Purdy, and just kind of overlooked the very easy ways in which you can see, yes, he does color inside the lines and do all the Shanahan quarterback stuff, but it's very clear where he elevates this offense. And I mean, the play that he made where he's scrambling around, he's moving back and forth, and he throws the touchdown to Juszczyk in the corner of the left, the front corner of the left end zone. That's a play that none of those other guys I just listed off here make. Those are the plays that they thought they might get from Trey Lance, and they got him from the quarterback that they drafted with the final pick in that very same draft. bailed out of the Trey Lance failure by Brock Purdy. That's how good he's been. I mean, he really is like Tony Romo. Producer Colin and I were messaging about this during the game, and that's a comp I've thrown out for Brock Purdy previously. He is like Tony Romo, is because he's smart, clearly knows the offense and everything like that, but he can also access things that the other guys can't because of his improvisational ability, his ability to scramble, his ability to just kind of pull a rabbit out of his hat. I really like Purdy. I'm a fan of his game. I'm a fan of when this offense is, not fully healthy, because George Kittle doesn't play in this game, and Trent Williams missed huge chunks of this game. But I'm a fan of when there are more dynamic pass catchers available in this offense than we have seen previously. And we saw that a ton here. Jake Tonjes was able to do kind of a George Kittle impersonation here. 9 targets for Tonjes in this one, 60 yards and a touchdown here. That was good to see. Obviously, if you had George Kittle in your fantasy lineup and you were waiting, Tonjes proved to be a guy that you could viably stream. And again, he did a nice George Kittle impersonation here. Just 6.1 air yards per target for Tonjes in this one, but he was able to come through and make some of those outlet plays. The wide receiver room was clearly led by Juwan Jennings, who had 31 routes, 81.6% route participation. He led the team in playing time. The guy who led the team in production was Ricky Pearsall, baby. Man, Ricky Pearsall was routing dudes up out there. Missed last week's game, of course, with an injury, even after it might have been his first or second catch on a pretty sick route along the left sideline. Got a little banged up there. I'm like, oh my God, please, Ricky, just don't get hurt. Just don't get hurt. And sure enough, he played the rest of the game here, was on the field for 71% of the snaps. And like I said, 79% route participation for Ricky Pearsall here, 2.83 yards per route as a pure outside receiver. Like, that's the interesting thing about Ricky Pearsall, that, look, as a fantasy pick, he's obviously been a bit boom or bust because he's had these low-scoring weeks when he was coming back from the injury. But for the most part, when he's been healthy, which has been very rarely, he's been productive. He hasn't had this monster fantasy ceiling. The one thing I would say that skill set-wise, talent-wise, I take back 0% of what I said about Ricky Pearsall. And he's a guy that I'll be willing to believe in, because predicting injuries is hard. And anytime someone tells you they can predict injuries, they're usually wrong about that. I was like, oh, Chris Olave, he's certainly getting hurt again this year. He's about to play 17 games for the first time in his NFL career. What if Ricky Pearsall does that next year? Obviously, concussions are different than some of the stuff that Ricky's dealt with, but nevertheless, point just stays out there. What if he stays healthy next year? I take back 0% of the talent evaluation for Ricky Pearsall. The one thing I may have I definitely was wrong about was the role he might be playing in this offense. He's like a pure perimeter receiver. He's a vertical guy in this offense, averages 17 yards per reception tonight. He leads the team with a 39.5% air yard share, just again, 12.5% snaps in the slot. I thought he'd be moving around a little bit more. I thought he would play a more diverse role as the team's primary slot receiver. That has not been the case. He's been playing a ton of vertical X receiver. He's essentially just replaced Brandon Ayuk in this team's receiver core. I think Pearsall can play more than just X receiver. I actually think he can be more dynamic at different spots. I wonder if Jennings moves on in the offseason. Jennings scored again here in this one. He has 6 touchdowns over his last 5 games. He's just been automatic at finding the end zone, but it's not been a perfect season for Juwan Jennings. You think he might move on in free agency at the end of the year. If there is a guy he could, they replace him with someone who's more of a pure X receiver. Could that allow Pearsall to move around more in year 3? I'm open to that. But again, Ricky Pearsall was awesome in this game. Great to see it. It was just an incredible Kyle Shanahan designed passing game, and Purdy was executing it with incredible precision. And then you got what you got in the ground game here for Christian McCaffrey. And it's hard to just say the ground game with McCaffrey, although he had a 41-yard long run, which was his longest of the season, 6.1 yards per carry, one of his most efficient days as a rusher. He also tacked on 6 targets, 23 carries, 6 targets. That now brings Christian McCaffrey up to 425 opportunities, intended touches on the season. That's targets plus carries. I tweeted this out towards the end of the game. We've had 15 running back seasons in which a running back has logged 420 or more intended touches since 2000. Okay, 15 seasons that's happened since the year 2000. It's happened just 4 times since 2010. Obviously, teams don't use running backs like that. 2 of those 4 seasons, have been Christian McCaffrey with 2 different ball clubs. He did it in 2019 with the Carolina Panthers, 429 opportunities. He did it this year, 425 with the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, shoot, how many opportunities is he going to get next Saturday? Because the Niners will be playing the Seahawks for the number 1 seed for the NFC West on Saturday here in this upcoming week, in week 18. How many opportunities is he going to get? He's going to sail past that 429 number. I knocked my mic over as I was saying that. I'm so excited about these Christian McCaffrey touches here. I mean, my God, like he's essentially just going to sail past that. Could he end up with 450? I mean, 25 opportunities. Shoot, he had friggin' 29 tonight. We get 30 next week. Still can't figure this mic out. That's how excited I am about this, okay? I mean, how many opportunities is he going to get in this upcoming game? He's going to sail past one of these numbers. He might have 450 plus. He might be top 5 in terms of opportunity-based seasons since the year 2000. Historic stuff for Christian McCaffrey. And again, another guy that, he's definitely getting hurt. He was hurt in August. Remember all the calf injury? Don't know about that. He's taken home a lot of fantasy football championships for people here in week 17. This game in general had to help a ton of people take home their fantasy football championships because we got so much, not just from the 49ers offense, which was brilliantly called, which was brilliantly executed, a ton of different players popping off here. We also, on the other side of it, got a great game out of the Chicago Bears. And of course, let's be clear here. Neither of these defenses are very good. The Niners offense might be so good that they could make a run with this defense. You know, there's some talk maybe Fred Warner could come back if they make the NFC Championships, if they make the Super Bowl. All of those games potentially, if they win next week and they get that number 1 seed, could just all be in San Francisco, by the way. They could all be at home for the Niners. That'll be interesting with this defense, but they're going to have to win some shootouts in the playoffs. So will the Bears, because their defense obviously is another one. They're opportunistic. They get turnovers. They got a big turnover here tonight, but they're not able to consistently stop some of the best offenses in the league. We know that. They're not great in terms of getting pressure on the quarterback. That's a possibility here as we're looking at can the Bears make a run. But their offense has absolutely come together. And this is a night where you did not get a big rushing dominant game here from the Chicago Bears. I mean, certainly DeAndre Swift had a couple of moments. Kyle Monangai had a couple of moments. But you're not looking at this as one of those where, oh my God, they just took the game over on the ground. 42 pass attempts for Caleb Williams here in this game. That was super impressive to see him being the driving force of the offense. And it wasn't always consistent shot to shot, down to down. But man, he made a lot of big time plays, threw the ball down the field in this game. Really impressive outing, in my opinion, for Caleb Williams in this one. Again, if we're looking at just the total dropbacks, it's one of his most of the season. If you're looking at pass attempts, it's one of the highest of the season. This was really a moment where they trusted him to be that guy, and he really executed it. I thought this was a really strong game from Caleb Williams. Again, you're gonna see the under 60% completion rate. That's part of it. You know, he's going to have 2-3 misses that he wants back in a game. Imagine if he starts connecting on those misses. Imagine if he stops sailing those. I mean, then we're talking about one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. The arm talent is truly there with him. He can whip that thing down the field. The touchdown to Colson Loveland was incredible. That was just heaves it down the field. He's got so much arm talent. You can just see why this staff really is into Caleb Williams and why they believe in him long-term. I believe in Caleb Williams long-term. And a lot of what we saw tonight was a big reason why. Again, not perfect. He's going to have a couple of those misses, but he also is able to throw the ball away because he's avoiding sacks this year at a much higher rate than he was last year. Again, I think he's just on the right track here. Let's break down some of these individual performances. As I mentioned with the run game, 6 yards per carry for DeAndre Swift, 4.8 for Kyle Monangai. I thought those guys had some nice runs, but it was the passing game here that really tells the story of this one, particularly 2 members of the passing game, which is the 2 rookies. Luther Burden and Colson Loveland were awesome tonight. They were just absolutely awesome. Let's talk about Colson Loveland here for a second, who big time night for Colson Loveland. He was able to be incredibly productive, 10 targets, led the team, 6 receptions for 94 yards. and that one touchdown, as I mentioned. He did have one drop on the night. I believe Chris Collinsworth said it was his first drop of the season. I do think he has the best hands on the team overall, so that was disappointing to see, but he made up for it with a number of big plays and a number of big catches. I think this guy is going to be one of the best tight ends in the league in the long run. I'm very excited about Colson Loveland. He's able to play in line. He's able to play in the slot. He's actually able to be a real threat out wide at times in certain packages. They don't overdo it there. You've seen other coaches try to overdo it with these generational tight ends and putting them out wide. It's only in certain packages and certain instances with Colson Loveland, and he actually makes the plays too. So really excited about him. Absolutely dynamic. Let's talk about Luther Burden here for a second. I'm still waiting on the full route data to see exactly how much he played in this game, but I'll tell you what, every time he was out there, he made an impact. He was incredible from the moment go, made big plays in this one, despite the fact that he was coming off an ankle injury that caused him to miss last week's game. I'm just so high on Luther Burden. I think he's going to be awesome for this team. And, you know, there's fantasy football folks that are constantly whining and complaining about his, you know, lack of usage in the offense at times at the beginning of the year. I'm telling you guys, it is a good thing. It is going to be worth the wait. Okay. Like, go back to the prospect profile for Luther Burden. This is a guy who, in my opinion, this is my evaluation of him. And I think this was shared by other folks. And honestly, I think it was pretty obvious to see on film. He was a guy that needed work. He was not just a gadget player, which is what he was labeled as because of some of his usage, but he was a guy where there were work ethic concerns. There were like technical concerns. He wasn't always right and tight in his details in terms of being in the right place where he needed to be in zone coverage and making those plays consistently. He was not a reliable receiver. But when he got drafted by the Chicago Bears, and this, like, these videos are up on my YouTube channel. Like, I had these conversations with James Coe for Reception Perception after he was drafted. That I thought that was the perfect spot for him because this is a coaching staff that was going to push him. They were going to be really hard on Luther Burden to make sure he was right and tight on those details. And I think you've just seen a player who has just been doing this, trending up all throughout the season with what they've asked him to do, his own individual play. So yeah, like he was not an immediate day one. He's on the field every single snap, whatever. But the yards per route are really indicative there that when he was getting the opportunities and they slowly put more and more on his plate at the beginning of the year, it's a lot of screens, design stuff. Tonight, it's big boy routes. You know, you just watch it on broadcast, so you don't know for sure. But to me, it looked like a lot of real deal big boy plays. And you've seen more and more and more of that. Like, there are still some times where I think he needs to, like, he's not as good in man coverage as Rome Odunze, which is why I think Odunze has been the one on this team when he's been healthy. But like going into 2026, I think it's pretty live that like it's maybe a toss up between those two guys as to who is going to be better. From a production standpoint, I think Luther Burden might be a better fit in terms of getting the layups, like the screens, just get the ball in his hands and let him run up to catch. I think he's definitely better in that phase of the game than Rome Odunze. And I love Rome Odunze. He is one of my favorite receivers in the league in terms of just the technique in which he runs his routes and the way he approaches the game. But I think there's a real chance that Burden is better. Like, Burden's a prospect I also really liked and wanted to be aggressive on again when he landed with the Chicago Bears. He's a guy I have, at least I'm trying to have higher ranked in consensus in Dynasty. Like, these two guys I think are going to be an awesome receiving tandem for the Chicago Bears team that I just want to be very much invested in 2026. So, you know, definitely going to get a lot of questions. I'm sure it's going to be a big talking point in the offseason. Like, who's the one on this team? Is it Rome or is it Luther Burden? The answer to me is yes. Like, take Chicago Bears players in 2026 and beyond, because I think we'll see if DJ Moore is on the team next year. Moore had a very disappointing night tonight. If you started him in fantasy, he was sick, downgraded to questionable with an illness Sunday morning. So was Olamide Zaccheaus, who didn't play in this game, which allowed Ja'Day Walker to actually still play a little bit of a decent role here. So, you know, that obviously was frustrating if you played DJ. I still think he's had these nice moments towards the end of the year. I'm guessing he's not going to be on the team next year. Cole Kmet, we'll see about that. Like, I really think this could be it could go from a, kind of crowded situation here to maybe a little bit consolidated between three players. I mean, it's way too early to be saying that for sure, but if it's consolidated in 2026 to Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, Colson Loveland, like flop the order however you want it. Caleb Williams, year 2 of the offense, year 3 in the NFL overall. Ben Johnson cooking like he was cooking tonight. I mean, shoot, that's an offense I want to be exposed to here. But yeah, Luther Burden, again, Huge night tonight. It was awesome to see. Really excited about him. The two things to note: did have one bad drop on the final drive. It ultimately was his final target of the night. So he goes 9 targets, 8 catches, 138 yards. Yeah, who cares? Like it was a third down. I get it. You got to catch that. There's been a lot of plays like that for Bears wide receivers. Dunze definitely, but a lot of those, like, you got to catch that play, but you just keep going back to these young guys, keep feeding into them. Don't worry about, oh my gosh, one bad drop, whatever. Who cares? Like, he made more plays than he left on the field. The other concern is that he was injured in the end zone on the final play. It looked like he might have gotten run into by one of the Niners defenders as Caleb Williams was scrambling around. Ben Johnson didn't have an update on Burden as of the time we're taping this here around midnight Eastern on Sunday. So that is just worth tracking. This note here from Lester Whitthong, I believe, says that Burden was taking questions in his locker room after the game. So maybe that's a positive sign for Luther Burden. So it definitely felt like one of those can't put the genie back in the bottle performances for Luther Burden, who is going to be very, very good. Somebody I want to be high on going forward. Want to be high on this Bears team overall. Both of these teams, man. It was really exciting to watch this one. And what a perfect way to end Sunday Fantasy Football Championship week, a good old-fashioned shootout where these teams went point for point for point. It was pretty exciting to watch. I really enjoyed this game.